Hey Comets, welcome to Telescope Talks, a podcast from Palomar Students Newsroom. I'm Evelyn Galan Acevedo, the multimedia editor. Today we have a special guest here with us, Russell Sheaffer, who is a director, producer, and one of our very own cinema professors here at Palomar. He was a producer for the film Playland, which will be screening here at Palomar. Russell, thank you so much for joining us today. To start off, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to Palomar?
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. What brought me to Palomar? I actually took my very first college class at Palomar many decades ago, when I was a student at San Marcos High School, and it felt like such a safe place to be as a young person in San Marcos. um, and then I wandered to UC Irvine for undergrad, to NYU for my master's, and to Indiana University for my PhD. And then when my partner and I were moving back post grad school, trying to figure out where we wanted to be, we landed back in San Diego. We're down in North Park now. And I was really missing teaching. We moved back and I didn't immediately jump back into teaching. And Palomar felt like this pull, like I wanted to be back in the classroom. At first, I was doing that part time, and started teaching Cinema 100 classes here. I have such wonderful colleagues in the cinema department. That slowly worked its way into teaching the queer cinema class here, which felt like a dream. And then when a full time position opened up, I'm in year 3 of full time teaching now. I jumped at the opportunity, and my colleagues have been incredible.
That's really cool. What is it that you did? You got your PhD in your undergrad.
In undergrad, I did the film and media studies program at UC Irvine. At NYU, I did the cinema studies program, which is similar. And then at Indiana University, I was really excited to work at the Kinsey Institute there, which is the um, archive of everything related to sex, gender, and reproduction. And so I went into a program called Communication and Culture, which was this gorgeous interdisciplinary space where performance theorists, rhetoricians, film scholars, film theorists were all working together. And so we all sort of cross pollinated. And so my PhD is technically in communication and culture. And I was the archival fellow at the Kinsey Institute while dissertating.
Mm. Oh, that's really cool. Well, we want to talk about Playland, which is a film that you were a producer in. And I would like to mention that Playland will be screening at the San Marcos campus in room D10 on Thursday, November 6th. And there will also be a pre-screening reception at 4:30 p.m. in the Pride Center, ST72.
Pizza.
Yes. And the film begins at 5:30 p.m. and will be followed by a Q&A, right, with the director as well as with you, Russell, right?
Yes.
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 Okay. If you would describe Playland in 3 words for someone who hasn't seen it yet, what would those words be?
What a hard question. Playland's really hard to pin down, so I'm gonna do my best. I would say, uh, ethereal, ghostly, and strange. Say ethereal, ghostly, and strange.
For those of you that aren't familiar with the film, Playland takes place at Playland Cafe, right, in which was Boston's oldest and most notorious gay bar, which closed back in the 90s. And the film features music, dance, archival footage, and performances. What drew you to Playland, and was there something about the story that really spoke to you?
Yeah, so the director of Playland is also the writer, of the film. Their name is Jordan West. They're a Student Academy Award winner. Their films are incredibly gorgeous. They sort of navigate the space between the fine art spectrum and the moving image, uh, more like mainstream moving image work. And they sent me a very early draft of the script for Playland, and they were working as a server in gay bars in Boston at the time. They had been spending the last year of their life working in the Boston LGBT archive, and they were finding this really fascinating vocabulary between what an archival documentary might look like and what like queer fantasy might look like, imagining like holes that that they were finding in the history of this space as like a potential for just like really fantastic imagining. And that spoke so immediately to me, especially having come out of researching at the Kinsey Institute myself, seeing somebody who is doing really analogous work in a really different way got me so excited. So I never got to go to the Playland Cafe. I wasn't old enough in the 90s to go to a gay bar yet. But I could really see every single archival detail in their first draft of the script, like linking back to every movement, every line, every single thing that they had written was so clearly related to something in the archive. And that archives are sexy. They are like incredible spaces to explore. And so I got very excited very fast.
Mhm. Well, I do have a, kind of a fun question here. Since you said, you weren't old enough to go to the bars. So if you could travel back in time and, who is someone that you would like to party with at Playland Cafe for a night?
Oh, at the Playland. I mean, at the Playland specifically, Sylvia Sidney, who is like an inspiration, like an incredible, nasty drag queen, who would have performed in and around Boston at that time. She's absolutely a inspiration for the film. Lady Bunny in our film plays kind of a version of Sylvia Sidney. Um, if I was just thinking generally about, like, who I'd wanna spend time with in a gay bar, I don't know that they would ever find themselves in a Boston gay bar, but I would love to just spend some one-on-one time with Virginia Woolf,
Mm.
um, in my fantasy life.
Mm. I think for me, maybe Freddie Mercury. I
Oh
think
my
that would be
goodness, that would be
fun.
so great as
Yeah.
well. Yes. Yes. Are you expecting, like, a personal concert, or you just want time to, like, talk?
Just
To
to
talk, just
talk,
to be.
just kind of like hang out, just the vibe of, because I'm sure he was, always performing and just kind of like see him like laid back, like see that side of
Yeah,
him.
I love that.
Mhm. How do you choose which stories or projects to direct or produce? Like what draws you to those type of projects?
Yeah, I find myself when I want to make something usually drawn to really experimental form. Like I feel like the cinematic language that I have personally leans pretty hard on formal experimentation and play. So like I can spend all day just looking at a film with no humans and just colors and that'll make me so happy. Um but when I'm looking at work to produce, I often am like finding myself drawn to artists who are similarly interested in experimental form and doing something really different in establishing their own cinematic language. That doesn't have to be my cinematic language, um, but that are thinking about embodiment, gender, sexuality through their own deeply unique, specific lens. I want to understand why this person wants to make this film in this way, and so form also becomes a really important part of it.
Mm. And since you mentioned, a lot of how you're drawn to experimental films, what are some of your favorites?
Favorite experimental films?
Yes.
Oh man, we're gonna talk about experimental film in my editing class today, and we're gonna watch some Maya Deren. We're gonna watch A Study in Choreography for the Camera and Meshes of the Afternoon, which are absolutely iconic. I am an absolute Kenneth Anger devotee. I am so fascinated with the way that he plays with form and really smashes together pop culture and sexuality. Um, I love so much experimental film. I really love Jody Mack's films. Um, yeah, there's so much. There's too much.
Mm.
Bruce Conner. I mean, there's so much magic.
Mhm. What was it like seeing, Playland, like from the script to the screen, like come to life? What was that like?
It was great. It was stressful. It was big. We were fundraising for quite a while. The whole process from like start to finish was um for me, as far as I was on the project, was about 3 years. We started in the middle of that first year of COVID, and we're very like aspirationally thinking like we're going to be able to get together and make this wild Fantasia. and COVID kept posing complications. Um, we ended up raising funds from grants from private investors from all over the place. And then we had the opportunity to shoot in the largest soundstage in Boston, or just outside of Boston, which was incredible because they were shooting like the new season of Dexter next door, and then two doors down was the new Stephen King movie, and then our like weird little experimental queer film. And so that was an incredible experience. It was the largest crew I've ever wrangled. It was one of the largest budgets I've ever wrangled. So there were so many balls in the air, and I learned a ton in that process. But actually, like, getting to the point where we had completed the film, we premiered at the International Film Festival Rotterdam, which is sort of a bastion of that hybrid space between experimental and narrative filmmaking, and then at Tribeca in the US, and getting to share that experience with our cast and our crew and our communities, like, being able to bring the film back to experimental film lovers and filmmakers, but also just getting to share it with queer folks has been
Mm.
fantastic, like,
Yeah.
the dream.
Hmm. Um, I'm just gonna say, I think I would assume that having a film, you worked on screen here at Palomar is, a special thing. So what does that mean to you?
It's great. I'm nervous. It's good. I mean, I get really nervous before any screening ever, in any context, but it feels like a really special opportunity to get to bring it back, to school here. To get to bring Jordan here feels really meaningful and special. I've been working to get a queer film series going here for the last couple of years, and so also just to see that blossom has been really meaningful
Hmm.
to me.
What do you hope that the screening will spark? What kind of conversations among the people that watch it?
Oh, I hope that I hope that it gets us talking about how we do historical work, how we think about documenting communities, who gets to document our communities, how we go about doing that, and where our own self-actualization plays into the historical narratives that we find. Because I think, speaking for myself, being able to see a historical trajectory for queer people who are not like the singular vision of what queerness looks like in the world, um, has been really important to be able to find those icons, those models. Pulls me back to Virginia Woolf in some capacities. People who have existed in their own very unique ways is really important, and that allows us to then do that self actualizing. Um, and I hope that Playland does that for some folks as well. Allows a portal to just a different way of seeing how we exist in history.
As a cinema professor, do you find that you're teaching, when you teach film, it kind of influences your approach when you produce or do storytelling in your own projects?
Oh, 100%. Feel like I am by far the most creative version of myself when I'm in a classroom. And I learn so much from the students in the room. Like I really genuinely try to come to class every day ready to bring something, to teach something, but also to like hear where other people find themselves or find interest in the things that we're talking about. And I learn so much in that process. I think about things in different ways. I'm like, I want as much learning in that room as I'm there to give. It's wonderful, and it totally changes the things that are interesting, the perspectives that I see in the world. It changes everything.
Final question. What advice would you give to students who would like to, get into the film industry, whether it's as producers, directors, or storytellers?
I think that the most important thing, speaking from experience, is to find your community, to be able to go through college or whatever journey people have ahead of them and keep themselves open to seeing who's around them, what opportunities exist to make work at whatever size and whatever scope, is possible in the moment, and to continue to plow forward with those people. Because ultimately, the people that you meet here or at the next institution you're at or in the next adventure that you have are going to be the colleagues that you make work with, that you get inspired by, and hopefully you end up elevating each other as you progress on and as your access to resources grows. But if you haven't laid that groundwork, it's so much more challenging than being able to lean on and elevate each other.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Where can listeners find you or more of your work?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. That's the one social media platform. I'm Russell.Sheaffer. Um, and a lot of my work is also through a company that I co-own called Artless Media. So you can find the wild, strange, experimental leaning things that we make there.
Mhm. Are there any other classes that you want to kind of
Yeah,
promote here?
I'll plug some classes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In this coming semester, I'm teaching a intro to film production class, Cinema 125. It's the first time that I'm teaching that. I'm so excited. Um, uh, that class has been enrolling very fast. I think there are like 10 seats left, so jump on it. Let's do it. I'm also teaching the first ever experimental film class at Palomar next semester. That's listed as film subjects in the catalog. It's 105. Teaching a Cinema 100 class next semester, and queer cinema. We have queer cinema. Um, that class is being taught online in the spring and in person in the fall these days. So very different experiences, but really, really joyful place to come together and think about the history of queer representation in film. And that's Cinema 123.
Thank you so much for joining us, Russell. Don't forget to check out Playland on Thursday, November 6th in D10, or you can also find it online through Canopy. That's all for this episode of Telescope Talks. Don't miss the latest from Palomar at the-telescope.com or our Instagram, the_telescope. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for having me.